Daniela Lourenco was born and raised in Brazil, where she earned her PhD in animal breeding and genetics from Moringa State University. Dr. Lourenco joined the University of Georgia as an assistant professor in 2015 and was promoted associate professor in 2021. Her research has focused on improving livestock production, health, fitness, and efficiency using genomic information, developing statistical methods and software for genetic evaluation and genome-wide association, and addressing issues related to using big data and multi-omics information. She actively works with several US and international breeding companies, and her multi-species genetic research program has secured over $10 million in grant funds from government and private sources since 2015. Dr. Lourenco has authored over 300 conference proceedings and 175 peer-reviewed publications, and has given almost 100 invited talks on 5 continents.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.
Welcome to the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science Seminar Series, the first of 2025. This seminar is in English with interpretation available in Spanish, French, and Hindi. You may select the language of your preference at the Zoom bar menu. We invite you to follow us in LinkedIn, YouTube, and social media using the hashtag Women in Science for the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science Seminar Series. We will be hearing today from an outstanding leader, Daniela Lourenco, Associate Professor in Animal Breeding, Genetics, and Genomics at the University of Georgia in the United States. Daniela Lourenco will have a conversation with Rosemary Restra, Senior Scientist and Business Requirement Analyst and Data Coordinator at CIMMYT Genetic Resources Program. Restra coordinates the teams for load-on in CIMMYT germplasm phenotypic and genotypic data to centralize internal data management systems. We will have an open Q&A session at the end of the conversation, and also you are invited to submit questions via Slido for the speaker and invite you to submit your questions, and we invite you to submit your questions and comments in the Slido to be addressed in the Q&A session right after the conversation. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Govertz, Director General of CIMMYT, to officially open the event and introduce our distinguished speaker of today, Dr. Daniela Lourenco. Dr. Govertz, over to you.
Thank you, Isabel, and a late Happy New Year to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is 2025, and we are back. Welcome to this first webinar of our series, Catalyst of Change, Women Leaders in Science, that we kicked off in 2023, and already more than 30 of these seminars have been held. And today we have another exciting TED Talk meets fireside chat style conversation where women leaders, both from CIMMYT and our global network, want to show their individual story, tell us their leadership styles, and show how leaders in science institutions like ourselves expand their horizon, achieve the goals of a broader representation and gender balance. We need to provide more opportunities to hear from different leaders, their life journeys, their lessons, and their insights. And this all because you can't be what you can't see. And today we have a terrific Catalyst of Change guest speaker. Daniela Lourenco is an associate professor in animal breeding, genetics, and genomics at the University of Georgia in the United States. She was born and raised in Brazil, where she earned her MSc and PhD degree in animal breeding and genetics from Moringa State University. She has been working in the field since 2004, and her current interests include the use of genomic information to increase rates of genetic progress. If this sounds familiar, it is this time not a coincidence. Also, development of methods for genomic evaluation and the use of computational algorithms to analyze larger data. She has authored over 275 conference proceedings, more than 160 peer-reviewed publications, and multiple invited talks on the 5 continents. She's taught several short courses and trained geneticists globally. Daniela has built a successful and solid international career around genetics and genetics innovation, and has received over 40 visitors from different countries at her laboratory. Lourenco oversees a team of graduate students and postdocs and received the UJA Fred C. Davis Early Career Award in 2020. Her research group has been working on genomic selection in beef, dairy, cattle, swine, poultry, and fish. They have been involved in the development and implementation of single-step genomic evaluations for several breeding companies and breeding associations. The software and algorithms developed by her group are being used right now for genomic evaluations worldwide. So we are very proud that Daniela wants to join us here today for a conversation. And we're even equally, or maybe a little bit more proud even, of Rosemary, who is our senior scientist that has accepted the invitation to together have a conversation Q&A with Daniela. And as Isabel already said, our esteemed Rosemary coordinates the teams for loading CIMMYT's germplasm, phenotypic, and genotypic data to the centralized internal data management system. And I can see that there are many, many areas of expertise where you overlap. Therefore, I am very sure that we will enjoy and learn a lot from Daniela's outstanding leadership experience. And without further introduction, Daniela, the floor is all yours. And once again, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bram, and thanks for the introduction. I'd like to thank also Jenny and Sarah for inviting me to be here today. And I'm a very proud woman in science, and I think one of my roles is just like to spread the news and to share my career, right, or the path through my career. And today I'm going to share some things that probably people don't talk about, but I think it's very important because sometimes through our career, we go through so many things that some people may give up because of them. But just hang on there because everything that we do in our careers only like it's very worth, right? Just if you have a goal, an objective, just like go for it and don't give up if you see some things that try to make your path harder, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. But then based on the introduction, so you already said that I'm originally from Brazil, right? And let me share my slides here. I have some slides, yeah. So I guess you can see my slides now. Okay, so I'm going to share some things. And one of the things that you already said is that I'm originally from Brazil. Yeah, that's true. I'm originally from Brazil. And then I'm actually from a very agricultural state. It's Paraná state. Let me just adjust here something. Okay, I'm from Paraná state. And then Paraná state is actually very agricultural. So we are number 1, 2, or 3 in several crops and also livestock production in Brazil. So if we think about like corn, we are the second largest producer in the country and soybeans the third one. If we think about swine and poultry, we are the first producers in Brazil, right? So although I'm from a very agricultural state, I'm not from an agricultural background. So my parents or my grandparents, they have never owned a piece of land, like agricultural land, right? So this is true. So I have no agricultural background at all. And actually, this is a picture of my grandparents, and why I'm showing their picture here, because they were the ones who started the town that I was born, and I lived until I was like 29 years old. So my grandparents, they started the town. They were like colonizing that area. But although they did that, they did not get a farm to take care of. So, and then in this picture here, there is a girl, and this girl is not me because this picture was taken probably in 1930s. So probably 50 years before I was born. And then my grandparents, they were very important in my career, I would say, because they taught me several lessons. One of them is about who I should trust in. And in this case, I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about my faith. So they taught me who I should trust in. And they also taught me that we should not be attached to material things. Rather, we should take care of experiences, relationships, and also personal growth. One thing that I also learned from them is that we should be able to solve our own issues. And another thing is that, okay, how it is to be raised in a multicultural family, because actually we have a multicultural background. And here's just the results of DNA tests from my parents and me and my sister. So my father is about 30% African, or 26% African, and also European. My mom is European, so we have African and European background. And based on those results, we can see that my grandma that I showed the picture, she was about 50% African. So we have kind of a multicultural family. And talking about family, my family was very important, like in shaping who I am right now. And here in this picture, we have my parents and also my sister. And then with my parents and my sister, I learned that the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. We always have to work hard to get what we want and to be where we want to be. And there's a very interesting story here because although my family does not have farms, so we don't have an agricultural background, my father had a garden, and then everything that we wanted to do, if we wanted to get some extra money or something, he would ask us to remove the weeds from the garden. So so he taught us very early that we should work hard to get what we want, right? With very simple lessons. And then also with my parents, I learned how to understand parables and hidden messages. So I became quite good on finding hidden messages when interacting with people. And then also they taught me how to have a big heart and be generous, and also that things are made to be shared. And another thing that helped me in my career as well is that I always played sports. So I was in the basketball team. I also played indoor soccer, and I did bodybuilding for some time. And with sport, I learned very, very important lessons here. So one of them is that we need to learn how to deal with challenges. We need to have a lot of discipline in everything that we do. We need to do strategic thinking, logical thinking. I also learned that it's very important to work in groups, to respect people. I learned that sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, and we need to learn how to deal with that. And that we always want, or we need to strive to be the best that we can be, not competing much with other people, but competing with ourselves every single day. And then I played basketball until I was like in the second year of high school. And then I decided to stop playing because I wanted to focus on studying more because I wanted to be a scientist. And then I decided to do my undergrad in biological sciences because I really liked genetics, statistics, and also math. And then when I was taking experimental design classes, the professor who was teaching that class, he had a plant breeding lab, so he was doing research in corn breeding. And as I really like to work with breeding genetics, statistics, I asked him for an internship. So I was very excited. I went there to talk to him to say that I wanted to have an internship in corn breeding. And unfortunately, he had no spots in his group. He told me, I'm sorry, but I don't have more spots in my group, so you cannot join me. So I ended up working with microbiology and also biological control, but still, I had not given up on working with genetics and statistics. And then what I decided to do, I decided to go to the agronomy department and take plant breeding. And I also went to the animal science department and I took animal breeding course because I wanted to work with breeding and genetics, but I didn't know still if I wanted to work with plants or if I wanted to work with animals. And then after some time, some months, I figured out that actually someone was going to work with corn and I was working, or I was going to work with the animals who eat the corn, right? So I decided to go for animal breeding instead of plant breeding. Right. Okay. But then things were not very easy for me. Why? Because I was a biologist, and at that time, like 20 years ago in Brazil, animal breeding and genetics was not a profession that was inside or under the biology umbrella. So what happened is, just for you to have an idea, if I wanted to be a professor, like to be a professor or to work in a research institute, like Federal Research Institute, I would have to go to the court and ask the judge to rule in my favor so I could be accepted as a candidate or an eligible candidate for those positions. So I could not apply myself and just wait for them to select me. No, I had to go to the court and apply because the careers are very like protected. So the animal breeding genetics was not something that biologists could work with. And in fact, when I was taking the animal breeding class, what happened is that the students, they were not talking to me because I was an outsider. So I felt like a honeybee in the wasp colony because nobody would talk to me and they were looking at me like, who let the biologist in, right? So it was very tough for me, but that thing did not prevent me to go further, right? So I went through a lot of things to be who I am right now. And then probably after hearing what happened when I was taking the animal breeding genetics, you may think, okay, Daniela, you had enough. So probably if I were you, I would have given up. But anyways, the thing is that what I just told you was just the beginning, right? So what happens is that when I decided to go for grad school in animal breeding genetics, I decided to go for master's. I went there to talk to the professor, right, to get his opinion about that. And then he told me, Daniela, do you know what? You are a biologist and you're going to be competing with animal scientists. So don't be frustrated if you are not accepted or if you don't pass the test, because at that time there was an entrance test. So don't be frustrated if you don't pass the test. I said, okay, I know that I'm competing with animal scientists, but I want to go. I want to go for it. So I will study and I will do my best. Okay. Then I studied, I took the test. After 2 days, I had an interview, like oral interview. And then the first thing that professor asked me, Daniela, how come you, a biologist, you took the greatest or you got the greatest score? Your score was the highest. So among all animal scientists, how is it possible? And then I just looked at him. I said, well, you challenged me, and I took that very seriously. So I studied to be here right now. And then from that, I learned very important lessons. So the thing is, if you have an objective, don't let anyone take you out of your path, no matter how hard the path may look like. So you should never give up on your dreams, right? And then as I passed that test, I entered the grad school. So I was doing master's in animal breeding genetics inside the animal science department. And then I did my master's from 2004 to 2006. And then I paused a little bit because I got married in 2007. And for your surprise, I got married to an animal scientist as well. So as I was in the middle of animal scientist, my husband is an animal scientist. But the thing is, we started dating before we went to university. So when we were in high school. And then after that, I took like 2 years break. And then 2009, I came back for my PhD. And then I did my PhD again in animal breeding genetics inside the animal science department. And then when I was doing my PhD, my advisor, that guy I told you before, right? He sent me to the University of Georgia to do just part of my PhD, just 9 months. And then, so I had what we call the sandwich program in Brazil. So I did my PhD there, but I came to Georgia and then I went back to Brazil to finish my PhD. And then talking about grad school, in grad school, I learned also very important lessons. So one lesson is that in the grad school, it's the time that you have to learn as much as you can. So you need to be like a sponge to absorb anything that comes, right? Any knowledge that comes. And also like one thing that I tell my students, do your best every single day. There's no way to go wrong with that. And another lesson that I learned is that we should always help people and connect with people. So connections when we are in grad school are extremely important. And then I came here at UGA to do part of my PhD. I was invited to do a postdoc here. So I did a postdoc in animal breeding genetics. And then, as you already know, I became assistant professor 2015, associate professor 2021. And this year I'm going up for promotion to full professor. And then, but the question is, what do I do, right? So I work with animal breeding genetics, and I think this field is fascinating. That's why I'm in this field. So my research is focused on increasing and improve animal production, health, welfare, and efficiency. So basically what I do is to translate the genetics of animals into numbers. So if we have numbers, it's very easy to compare them so we can find and make the best ones. And actually, if we think about the technologies that can help food security, animal breeding is one of them, and plant breeding as well, as you may know, right? So those two, they're technologies that can help to secure food for the growing population. And my passion about animal breeding genetics came from the fact that this is an area that can really impact food production. So if you think how much animal breeding has helped food production, so this is a picture that summarizes it very well. So the chicken in the left-hand side is the chicken that your parents or grandparents used to buy at the grocery store, 1957. And the chicken on the right is the one that we buy now at the grocery store. But then one may think, okay, this is not just genetics, right? No, that's completely right. That's not just genetics. About 10 to 15% is due to nutrition, right? But 85 to 90% of the changes that we see here from 1957 to 2010 are due to the animal breeding and genetics field. And actually, what we have right now, we have a very important task. We need to increase animal protein production. This is our ultimate goal. But we need to do that without competing with humans for food. We cannot compete for water resources. And because of that, we need to have more efficient animals, and the animals should be healthier as well. And we need to do all of that thinking about reducing the environmental impact. So this is a lot that we need to accomplish, and we have a short time to do that, probably up to 2050, right? That we need to increase food production like a lot, right? And then if we think about what animal breeding has done so far, so if we think about pigs, the pigs from 1972, we had to feed them about 836 pounds of feed for them to reach the market weight of 220 pounds. And then 2007, the same pigs, they had to be fed 715 pounds to gain a market weight of 275 pounds. So the food conversion rate, or feed conversion rate, changed from 3.8 to 2.6, which means that the animals are producing more and they're becoming more efficient. Another big contribution that we see of the animal breeding genetics is milk production. So 1957, the average milk production of Holsteins in the US was 13 pounds of milk per year. And then 2015, this was 27,000 pounds of milk per year. And interestingly, the number of cows decreased from 25 million to 6 million. And the feed, if we compare the feed that was used in 1944, we are using right now only 23% of the feed, 35% of the water, 10% of the land, and the carbon footprint is 37% of that from 1944. And then came genomics, right? So with genomics, the production increased even more. So we can see that with genomics, for some traits, the genetic gain doubled. And another thing that happened as well is that the generation interval decreased. So we had a huge decrease in generation interval for the animals. So we can have a faster pace when we are improving the populations, right? And we have so many examples of how genomics has helped food production. So in pigs, we can see that the genetic gain doubled for many traits. And one interesting thing that we also saw in pigs is that, okay, so we always want to increase the number of pigs in the litter, but as we do that, the uterine space is reduced. So what happens is that the birth weight of the piglets, they drop. So after genomics, we're able to find female pigs, the sows, that would produce more litters, and each piglet would be heavier as well. So this was a huge, so genomics had a huge impact on animal breeding genetics field. And then in my group, what we actually do, we develop statistical methods, models, algorithm, and also software. The software that we developed is called BloodPath 90. And then those methods and also software, they're used for genomic selection in animals and also plants. And right now, because we have been collecting so much data that we need to develop algorithms that are able to deal with very large data sets, several sources of information, several omics that we are collecting, and we need to have that in a very efficient way. So this is what we have been focusing on my research. So efficient algorithms to deal with very large data sets. And then one of the methods that we developed in my group was a single-step GBLUP. So single-step GBLUP is very used for animal breeding genetics. It's also gaining momentum in plant breeding, but in plant breeding they call HBLUP. And it has also been applied to the calculation of polygenic risk score in humans as well. And then, as I told you, that we right now, at least like in the animal space, we are collecting so much data and a lot of genotypes. So if we think about, okay, how much the companies or breed associations are genotyping, right? If we think about dairy cattle like Holsteins, they have 8.5 million genotyped individuals. In jerseys, they have 1 million. In beef cattle, Angus, 1.8 million. And then in pigs and chickens, they have like from 200,000 to 300,000 genotyped individuals per line. So it's a lot of data. So one of the examples that we recently worked with was like trying to run genomic evaluations for like 4 million genotyped animals, 30 million animals in the pedigree, 45 million phenotypes. So this is a lot, and it requires a lot of brain power to be able to develop algorithms and models and software to deal with that. So without efficient methods, this example that I gave you, we could not run genomic evaluations in like regular servers. We probably to run genomic evaluations in this data, we should use the best server or the best cluster in the world, which is the L Captain from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California. And then the software that we develop in the group, it's used by several companies. And because it's being used by several companies, it's kind of easy to predict the impact that the software and also the methods that we develop in the group have, right? So let's give you some examples. So, okay, if you go to a restaurant and you order Angus steak or you order Wagyu steak, right? So the animal that is serving you the steak, the parents, take the parents of that animal. The probability that the parents of that animal were evaluated using the software or methods that we developed in the group is 95% for Angus, 95% for Wagyu. If we think about pork meat, I'm talking about US, right? So pork meat in the US, so the probability that the parents of the animal that is providing you that pork chop is about that the probability that the parents were evaluated using the software and methods from my group is 95%. And then if you think about chicken, 50%, catfish, 50%, eggs, 50%, and milk coming soon because soon the largest organization in the US is going to is actually implementing the methods, and then soon probably 95% of the milk in the US as well will kind of have an impact of or be impacted by our methods and software. And then as I'm talking about what we do in my group, so since 2015, we have collaborated with over 20 companies, animal and plant breeding companies. Actually, we have trained almost 100 people, like from students, postdocs, and visitors, 500 scientific contributions, including over 160 papers. We have taught several courses worldwide and over 100 invited talks. And then as a woman in science, sometimes I need to tell you that I need to confess actually that I feel more like a woman in science, right? Instead of women in science, I feel like a woman in science. And why is that? So here I have some examples to show you. The first picture here actually is a talk that I gave in Japan. And if you can see the picture, I'm the only female here among 4 people who gave talks. And then another example here, we have some pictures of speakers of a symposium that happened last November in Nashville. So I was also the only female. This is a program of a genetic forum in Poland in November. I was also the only female speaking. And this is a screenshot of my PAG app this like few weeks ago. And in my session, I was also the only female. And then here is a UGA event. So I was the only female here. And sometimes like we submit grants, we have working groups, and I'm also like sometimes the only female. And then you may ask, okay, do you feel intimidated with that? No, not at all. So I think it gives me more strength to keep doing my work in the best way that I can. And then I have talked about my career, and then you may be thinking, okay, so how do you balance career and family, right? Because you are a woman, so and women have children, right? Right, that's right. So are you going to have children? Yes, after tenure. Yeah, I'm going to have children after tenure. Then I asked my OBGYN, so when is my deadline for having children? And then she told me, okay, you're young, you do lots of exercise, you can wait until you're 40. Okay, let me do that. I'll keep working on my career, and then when I'm close to 40, I'll think about having kids. And then I started with 38, and I need to tell you that this was almost too late. So what happens is that fertility decreases with age, and there is one very important factor that I didn't know, and I wish someone had told me that before. So there is a hormone called anti-Mullerian hormone, AMH, that estimates the remaining egg count and also quality. So when this is very low, it means that your clock is ticking, so you don't have more time, right? So if you want to keep or take care of your career first, and then but you still want to have kids, so just ask your doctor to measure that. It's not like 100% accurate, but it at least is a very good prediction, right? So of when you should stop and start thinking about family, right? So the things that I learned from this, like trying to balance career and family, right? So the thing is, we need to know that, or we need to learn or to know how to balance the tenure clock and also the biological clock before it's too late. Because in my case, it took me 3 years, one failed IVF, two miscarriages, and a miracle to be able to have a baby, right? And then I'm happy that I was able to do that, although it was almost too late. So Isaac now is 15 months old, and I need to tell you that he loves mom's research outcomes. So he loves to eat meat, and here in this picture, he's even trying to get extra meat from the bones. So I think like through everything that I told you today, my career and the path to reach where I am right now, I have some final lessons for you. So one lesson is that you don't have to have an agriculture background to work with agriculture. Actually, you can be anything you want to be. You just need to work hard to get what and where you want. You need to do your best every single day. If you do that, there is no way to go wrong. And you really need to learn how to balance your career and family before it's too late. And probably like one very big lesson that I learned is that large obstacles are made to teach you to fly high, to fly very high, right? And a final lesson, so never give up your dreams. And here I just want to show you my dream team at UGA. So people who help me every single day. And I really appreciate what they do for the group. And here I have my email and also group website if you want to learn more about what I do. And I think now we will have time for interactions, right? Let me stop sharing my screen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rosemary Shrestha, a woman in agriculture science and development. I'm delighted to interview Dr. Lourenco Daniela because I'm so inspired by her work. Thank you, Daniela, for your insightful presentation and for sharing motivational experiences. I'm sure that your presentation has already inspired the audience, especially to our young women's colleagues who are ambitious to grow to leadership position in agriculture. Although you have already touched base in the topic in your presentation, so looking into your professional journey and then hearing your experiences, what are the challenges that you had to face to establish yourself in a leadership position like in the university? So, in any young woman, if any young woman wants to pursue such career in future, what would be your advice or tip
Mm-hmm.
for major consideration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, as I showed, I have been through so many things, right? That most of people would give up because it's not easy to work with something that is not under the umbrella of your profession, right? So I was like, I think I was brave enough to keep going because this is what I wanted to do. And and for sure, like I did not tell about a lot of things that I've been through, but maybe I can say something extra here. So when I arrived at UGA, one of the professors that I met here, I came here with my husband, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, this is my husband." And then this person told me, "Oh, you are married, so you don't have time to do research,
Mhm.
right?" And then after some time, this person was hiring me as a postdoc, right? So the thing is, we'll hear a lot of comments, but if you hear a comment that kind of it doesn't go well in your heart and you don't feel well with that, just ignore it. You don't need to keep that for you, right? So
Mhm.
keep for you just what is good. We need to learn how to retain what is good, right? And I think my main lesson is, okay, if you want to be someone, right? Let's say that you are a postdoc now, but you want to be a professor. Start behaving as a professor, because if you behave as a professor, people around you see that, and you see that you have potential to be a professor, right? So try to be what you want to be, although you are not in that position still, but people around you see that, and you see that you are able to do that. And if you have a dream, like don't give up, never give up. So work hard for that and you'll get it. Yeah.
Thank you. Really, very good tips. Yeah. Your profile shows your active participation in the team. Also, you also showed in your slides like you were only female, you know, female in the team members. And
Mhm.
then in your so profile also shows that your active participation in applying for funds for several projects associated with your research. Have you ever observed or experienced any difference in terms of getting funds for projects or even salary or promotion when you compare to your peers or male colleagues or even at the level of nationality, because you were from going from Brazil, right? So, yeah, any experiences on that?
Mhm. Yeah, so not in grants, no, like when I apply for grants, no problem at all. And also because I work a lot with companies, right? So I need for them to trust me, right? So I think like the way that we behave is extremely important, right? So and one thing that actually I had never thought about the situation that, okay, I am a woman in science until 2017, right? Because by then I was just like doing my work and that's it, right? I was doing my work and trying to do the best that I can. But then one day I was invited to give a talk at PEG, right? And then, although I don't have Twitter or X now, right? So at that time it was Twitter, but at PEG there's a lot of activities on Twitter. And then I went on Twitter to check, and then the chair of my session, the person who invited me, said, "Oh, we had a great line of speakers and we had a good rate, 50% males and 50% females." And then that clicked, right? I said, "Oh, okay, now I understand the point," right? But I don't see a lot of difference I really don't see a lot of difference. I don't know if it's because of my behavior, how I deal with people, or I really don't feel this difference. But I mean, it's clear, right, that sometimes I'm the only speaker, the only female in the room. Um, but it's not because of that that I'm discriminated. No, I'm not. I never felt discriminated because of that. No. Mm-mm. And I feel that I feel a lot of respect, in fact.
That's really good. And then that's really very inspiring for others, for the young uh, female colleagues to go for the leadership position like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to women who lack confidence, let's say, to take the leadership roles? How can we overcome the feelings of like an inadequacy or something like that?
Mhm. Yeah, so this is a very hard question because I think like the way that you are raised really tells a lot about how confident you can be, right? So my parents always raised me like to be independent, right? Oh, go there, talk to this person, do this, do that, right? And it's hard if you lack confidence and you want to gain confidence, right? But I think what
Mhm.
can give you confidence is just like to think about your future, who you want to be, right? So as I told you before, so act like what you want to be in the future, right? So I think this helps us to give confidence, and I also think that hearing from leaders is very important as well, right? Because they show, okay, how or what we have been through until we reach this point, and then okay, oh, I'm going through this one, I'm going through this person also went through this, and this person won the battle, right? So I think hearing from other people, it's very important, and I think like your catalyst of change is very important on that. I think this helps young women to get confident, yeah, to gain confidence.
Thank you. Uh, since I'm also working in the data management and then deal with the data, agriculture data, germplasm data, so you have experience working with the big data. And as you mentioned, also like your team members have developed like the software developer softwares as well. So, what is, in your opinion? So, what are the key factors that are required to sustain the products like the software long term, yeah, the
Mhm,
use of these products? So, what would
mhm,
be the major uh,
mhm.
factors?
Yeah. So we have factors like inside the group and the factors like outside, right? Inside the group, I think like it's very important to teach students about programming,
Mhm.
logics, algorithms, right? Because there are so many programming languages that what changes from one to the other one is like the statements, right? And we can learn statements like language, right? If I go to Mexico, probably I can learn some Spanish, right? I learn some words, but like how to put the sentences correctly in a very nice way is different. This is what is about algorithms and logics, right? So
Mhm.
this is very important to train students on that, because if we don't train students, they'll never be able to do that, right? And this is one thing that we put a lot of weight here, training them to deal with large data sets. And then talking about outside, I think like we need to have something that is very helpful for the industry. So the impact of our software will be measured by how useful it is for the industry. So having solutions that they really need is something that will help us to have this connection with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Probably this would be my last question. So, what kind of support do you cultivate for yourself to keep your energy and confidence up as a leader?
Mhm. So this is also a hard question because some people like they rely on coffee and this kind of stuff, but I don't drink coffee, I just drink water. But anyways, I think and this is something that happens to me. So I really know who I want to be and where I want to get. So this is what keeps me alive and keeps me like willing to fight every day. And also like what I try to do here in my group is to create a culture like that. So, okay, I encourage my students and I'm always trying to cheer them up. And I want to have like happy people in my group because happy people, they thrive and they reach things that are very far, right? So I think like what keeps me going is that I really know who I want to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Over to you, Isabel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosemary, for having this enthusiastic and stimulating conversation with Daniela Lourenco. Now, we would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. We invite you to raise your hand, to turn on your camera, and unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question or comment, or you can submit it via Slido. Indeed, we have received already a lot of questions, so I'm going to start reading the first one. Okay, and also we have a comment in the chat box. Well, there is one comment that says, thank you, Dr. Daniela, for your important session. I have a question. How important is mentorship in empowering women in science, and how can senior leaders foster meaningful mentorship programs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's extremely important, right? Because, okay, so the way that I mentor my students, right? There is mentoring and there is advisory. The way that I mentor them is the same way that I was mentored, right? So, and then a mentor is someone that will help them to go like from one step to the next one, right? And then, so actually, this is kind of funny, but the way that I mentor my students is that I treat them as kids. We always wanted the best for our kids, right? We wanted them to be like the best that they can. And this is how I treat my students, and they know that. And also like I do also mentorship with other people as well. When they ask me, oh, can you help me on this? Can we have sessions? Yeah, I think like the most important thing is to encourage them to keep moving because like there's so much struggle, especially like if we think about young professors, right? As I'm a professor, I'm talking about this area. So assistant professors, there is so much that they need to accomplish to be able to move to the next step, right? And then sometimes I talk to them, and then I think the most important thing is to encourage them for them to keep going, and then never like give up on being a professor, actually, right? So I think encouragement is extremely important when we are mentoring people.
Thank you. We have a hand raised. Kate Reher, will you please open your micro and if possible, your camera? Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the speaker for sharing your journey, your successes, and your advice with us. I just wanted to ask a little bit about your early inspiration, because it seemed like quite early you mentioned that you knew that you were interested in genetics. And I was just wondering, were there any family members or teachers that sparked your interest in science?
Yes. So when I was in my high school, I had like three great teachers teaching genetics. And this is what inspired me. And also, I always liked math somehow. And when I started my undergrad, I really liked the statistics. And in fact, because as I told you, my husband, he's also animal scientist. And when he was taking animal breeding genetics, he told me, he said, Daniela, you really like genetics and statistics. I'm taking this course that puts both together, so I think you will love it. And this is what happened. So yeah, but it was inspiration from high school teachers mainly.
Thank you, Kate, for this question. Now we go to the slide of questions that we have already received. It says, can you talk a bit about the cultural differences in science that you encounter and how you navigated them? And there is another one, a little bit related. As a woman in science who does speak English as a native language, I so admire you both and your ability to communicate in a second language. Do you have any tips for people on how to help avoid or fix miscommunications that may happen as a result of being lost in translation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So about cultural experience in science, right? So um, I feel that in Brazil, we have less female professors in animal breeding genetics than here or in Europe. And another thing is that the science, right? So when I was doing my PhD, I had projects, but the projects were like basic science, right? Just because you need to have a project. And then if we think about here, the projects, they are actually applied. Whatever we do, the outcome most likely is going to be used by the industry. And this is actually what attracted me to the US to work here instead of working in Brazil. But I think like this gap is kind of reducing right now, right? This gap. And thinking about like cultural experience in terms of discrimination or something like that, because I'm from Brazil, actually I never had an experience with that. Just like because I'm Brazilian being discriminated in science. No, I did not have this experience. And about communication, right? When like English is not my first language, it's Portuguese, my first language. And when I came to the US, I could not speak English at all. I could understand some, but I could not speak. So the first talk that I gave, it actually was not a talk. I was presenting a study in a conference, and then someone asked me a question, and I could not find the the words to reply. So I replied something that was extremely wrong. And then when I looked at the guy, he was shaking his head like this, right? So okay, you're making a big mistake, but this is because of language. And with language, we make mistakes when the language is not our first language, right? So we always make mistakes, and we just need to know that it happens, and we need to excuse, and that's it. So
Thank you. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you for being so candid about your journey to motherhood. Are there things about being a mother that are influencing your career now?
um, yes, I can say yes. And because we always thinking about the future of our kids, right? So I think that now I have a little bit more spicy on this, like who I want to be, and like working harder to be that, because I want my son to be proud of me, right? So I'm even like working harder for that. But also there are other things that come with motherhood that like people may not know. And I'm very candid about it. So at the beginning, it's extremely hard, especially because I had only 3 weeks of maternity leave, right? Only 3 weeks. And I had a C-section because I had like a risky pregnancy. So it was extremely hard for me. And also like we don't sleep well until like now I'm not sleeping well. I'm waking up at least twice at night because of my son, right? And right now, my working time is very limited. So before, I would work like from, let's say, 9 to 9. Now it's not like that. I work from 9 to 6, and then that's it. It's very hard for me to work when I'm at home because my son needs my help as well, right? So I need to take care of his development. I need to stimulate him. I need to teach him things when I'm at home, right?
Thank you. Are there words of advice that you received in your professional preparation that were particularly useful for you?
Um, this is I mean we hear so many things, right? So many things, and a lot of things were very important to me. And like my PhD and master's advisor, he was always like very helpful with his words to his students. So although he challenged me at the beginning, um, later he was like very careful, and he was always like, you can do it, let's do it. And he always like tried to push us. So words of like encouragement are extremely helpful and were very helpful to me. And one helpful thing that I heard was, and it's very funny, but like only non-native speakers will understand that, because the thing is, when we need to give talks or we need to present work, and we are like fresh in English, it's extremely hard, right? Because it's not our main language. So one day my advisor here, he told me, okay, you're going to give a talk. The audience, actually, just think about them as sheep. They're not going to say anything bad to you. They're all good sheep, right? Because they're very calm and they don't do anything bad. So, okay, he said, think that they're all sheep. Like they're not going to harm you. They're going to be very nice to you. So don't be afraid of going there and give your talk.
Thank you. And to finalize, what can institutions like CIMIT do to better help support the development of women leaders in science? And what would words of wisdom you would like us to take away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think like this initiative of Catalyst of Change is extremely nice, right? But I think another thing is that having like in-person meetings, right? Bringing women together, like leaders and also like the young career. I think getting together in the same room and talking, sharing experience, going like for lunch together, and I think is extremely important, right? So having more meetings, having more discussions as well, sending young women out for conferences to give talks, to interact with people, extremely important as well, right? And words of wisdom that I would like to give. So I put some on my final slides, but like to me, the most important thing is really know who you want to be and work hard to be who you want to be, because like nobody can live your life for you. We have just one chance, we have just one life, and do your things, not thinking about if I'm going to please this person or not. You need to please you, take care of everybody who is around to benefit from you, but like don't worry if people say bad things to you. You know who you want to be, just go for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. On behalf of Dr. Brangovers, Director General of CIMIT, we thank you so much for your valuable time for being here today. Also, we thank the audience that joined. Do not miss our following Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science series. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Tang Lixia from China Agricultural University. Now I'm working as a Deputy Director for College of International Development and Global Agriculture. Actually, since 2003, I have worked for the poverty reduction, rural transformation, and also I also working for the China Agricultural Corporation. Actually, in last decades, I have traveled different countries, especially in developing countries in Africa and Asia. So this work gives me a lot of opportunity to see the different livelihood and the different people, and also to understand the SDG development or some other development issues. Actually, in my previous career, I didn't realize that gender is a big challenge for me, because even sometimes I also feel a little bit discomfortable, because sometimes when I was in a group, I always be only one the female person at that some kind of academic discussions. But I think the gender, we also can have a good opportunities to work as female researchers, and also we have some privileges. In my career, I have met very kind bosses. They always give me inclusive environment, and also give me a lot of opportunities to think about or to focus on my research. And also I have a good family. My husband and my daughter and my parents always give me a lot of support. For myself, in my institute, most of my colleagues are female. So that's why we could discuss and communicate what kind of situation we are encountering. So I think in the future we can do better for the development, and especially for the gender and development.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.